Now that I'm finished making changes to my subassembly part, I am going to save it again. We'll create a new version, and then I'll bring this into Civil 3D, and we'll run a couple more tests. To save this, I'm going to go to the Packet Settings tab, and I am going to add a suffix to the name. I'm going to call this V2 for version 2. I'll press Tab to accept that. I will then come up to File. I'll choose Save As. We're going to use the same name we had before. We will just add V2 to this. I'll click Save. I will then return to Civil 3D. This is right where we left off. I am going to load the new subassembly part. Let me right-click on the Custom tab, and I'll choose Import Subassemblies. Let me click the Folder button, and I'll select version 2, and I'll click Open. I will then click OK. Now, I don't need the other one anymore, so let me select both of these lanes, and I'll press Delete to remove them. And then I'm going to select the corridor, and I'll choose Rebuild. There we go. Let's drop in the new subassembly part. I'll select this. I'll place it on the right side and the left. So we've got a nice symmetrical road. Not going to add any targets or super elevation. We've tested that already. I'm interested in testing the daylights at this time. So let's create a corridor. I'll launch the corridor command. We're going to create a corridor called First Street using the First Street alignment, First Street finish grade profile, and the subassembly composer test assembly. I'm going to target the existing ground surface. I'll click OK. And then I'd like to tighten up the insertion of the assemblies around the curves. We'll do that by curvature. I'll click OK, OK, and then we'll rebuild. Note that when the corridor is rebuilt, I am seeing my custom event viewer message. It's telling me that I've exceeded the max fill in some areas. Let me clear this list for a second. We'll close the panorama. If I zoom in, I can see how it's daylighting. I can see this is the area here where I must have exceeded 3 feet of fill. Let's come over to the profile for a second. I'll select the profile and I'll click the PVI. We'll pull this down. I'll then come back over to my corridor. I'll select it and I'll rebuild. There we go. That looks like it works pretty good. I've got my area of fill. We'll select this and we'll go to Object Viewer. If we get down to the end, we can see the area of cut, how it's creating my ditch on either side. I've got all of my feature lines, so all of that looks very good. When I'm finished, I'll click to close the object viewer, and I'll press Escape to deselect the corridor. So when it comes to corridor modeling, we are not limited to the subassembly parts that are available out of the box. We can create our own subassembly parts if necessary. The trick to doing that is using Subassembly Composer. Using Subassembly Composer, we can create virtually any custom subassembly part that we may need. I wish I could say that we have seen everything that Subassembly Composer can do, but really we have only scratched the surface. My goal over these last couple sessions was to get you started and comfortable using this tool. If you'd like to take your Subassembly Composer skills even farther, be sure to check YouTube, the Autodesk Knowledge Network, or Autodesk University Online. Using those resources, you'll find a wealth of information and screen recordings devoted to this application.